Welcome everyone. Now I'm joined by some special ladies here today. We're going to be talking about immunisation. So these ladies are from the ANFPP program, that's Australian Nurse Family Partnership Program, and they do some special work with our mums and mums-to-be, well, just our mums, I guess, in the community. So before I go ahead, I should introduce myself. My name's Shen'e. I'm a proud Kalkadoon, Birra and Jitterbal woman from far north Queensland. We're joined here today by Cardi, Lisa and Annie Kim. Cardi, tell me a bit about what you do for the program.
Hi, I'm Carty. I'm a nurse home visitor with ANFPP. My background is I'm a nurse and a midwife, and I just support the mums on the program in their journey for the first 1,000 days of their kids' lives.
Beautiful. And Lisa?
Hi. Yeah, I'm Lisa. I'm a nurse, midwife, child health nurse. I also have a background in immunisation and also breastfeeding, lactation consultant. And I love working with the ANFPP and supporting our beautiful first-time Indigenous mums.
Deadly. And Annie Kim, what do you do with the program?
I'm a family partnership worker team leader for our family partnership workers. So we've got a team of 4 of us all together. So I think we've got the actual joy of going out and travelling with our nurses and connecting with our community. And I'm also a proud Kukalangi woman and a Kalkadoon too. So I think we've got something in common there.
Yes.
Definitely.
So we're having a yarn about immunisation in honour of World Immunisation Week and how important that is. That's celebrated every year, the last week of April. And I guess it just talks about, how important our bubs are and how important we protect them from all kinds of diseases out there. So, we'll have a bit of yarn about ANFPP, immunisation, where can you get them done, the schedule, because I know that's very important. And we'll also have Dr. Gaj join us for a bit more information around immunisation. But Annie Kim, before we head into immunisation, how it can be a bit scary word sometimes, tell me what happens within the program. And, I know you're well known for your cultural activities there and how much the ladies love that. So tell me, I guess, the day-to-day life of what it means to step into the ANFPP program.
I think I'm absolutely blessed that it's offered in Australia and to support our first-time Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander mums and our non-Indigenous mums that are having Indigenous babies. And I think it's a great opportunity to connect them with culture and having, special expertise from our nurses and coming out and doing, that attachment and reading babies' cues and all that. And then we also know when we can read mums' cues too, that, it's really great that we can read their cues to see and control. So it's basically run and led by our mums. So we give valuable information. The nurses give out lots, but it's totally up to the mum and to give them resources, and they want to use it, it's up to them. They're not forced to do it or anything like that, but working in this organisation is great, and our community days are a blast because we all get together and the nurses, if one of us are out, the nurses are always out helping. So I think it's a really good team that we've got up there and working well, and great going out for our visits. I think going out to see babies every day is just like a blessing, and being an auntie and that cultural respect, because a lot of the young mums call me auntie too, and staff too, and I think it's just lovely, that connection, and I just love it. Recommend it to any first-time mums out there and promote it bigly.
And I think that the beautiful part of programs like this and other programs around that support mums is mums have what it takes to be the best mum. They just got to believe in themselves. And I guess that's what your job is, to empower the mums to believe in themselves through that cultural lens, to get out there and just really back themselves as mums, no matter how young you are or, what challenges you're facing. That emotional support is so very needed. And also, both mum and our workers kind of get that empowered side of what does that feel like for you?
I think it's great because we've got like the 5 principles, you are the expert in your own life. So mum is the expert in her life and she knows what's good for, we focus on strengths, we focus on solutions. And ladies, I've got 2 more there that I've got to fill in. Follow your heart's desire.
And only small changes are
that's
necessary.
Right.
We don't expect, You know, you don't build Rome in a day. And it takes, and for all of us, the journey into motherhood is a learning journey, isn't it?
Definitely
for all
learning.
of us. So it's just great that we can just be there alongside.
It is just a great program. We've just commented in the car on the way that we would have loved to be on a program like that. It's not a sign of weakness to want to be on a program like that. That's just such a helpful tool. Like I consider myself just walking alongside the mother. You got it right. She's got everything she needs to have to be a parent, but sometimes it's just so encouraging to have someone with you that says, yeah, I can see that that's really hard for you right now. Have you thought of this? Or, you know, like, or to just tell you, yeah, that's just one of those stages. It's normal. You're doing really great. You're doing a great job. It's very strength-based. We're all about the mother, and they can guide their journey, because none of the ANFPP mums' journey will be the same. Everyone's got their own little individual tweaks, and we can completely cater to what they need really from us.
Yeah. And I suppose, being a mum myself, I really wish this program was offered when I was there, because I know that I was depressed, you know, and all that sort of stuff, but I had no support and just had to, I think back in the days, you're right, you can do it, sis, you got this, but, you know, you need that support. And I think the glory of working with our nurses is just great, because not only they got so much information and everything they do, I've learned a whole heap, you know. It's just opened my eyes of all these things that I never knew, and being a mature age woman, not knowing that, and you've learnt so much of, you know, hearing the words and the terms and the meanings and that. So it's a growth for me too, and for our mums, yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that, you know, we talk about relationships and strength base, and how, you know, each person has their own individual background and story and experience and journey. What is it like as non-Indigenous women also to step into that world? And sometimes you have to leave all your expertise behind a little bit and just look into the eyes of that mum at that time and understand what she needs, and give her the ability or strength to, I guess it's more of an exchange to open up and to throw that shame a bit away. You know, you can be shamed very quickly, and there's a lot of shame built around our mums to be the best and to do the best, but we're also all human. So what is that like to kind of just, there's so much historical context to it, but dropping that for a bit and just having that engagement there and that exchange in that very moment?
Well, first of all, it's a privilege to be welcomed into the homes, and as Kim has said, it's an absolute joy to be with these mums, and I know that it's the light of my life. I just love spending time with my mums, and I understand that, as Cardi has said, every mum has a different journey, and has walked a different path to get to the place they are now, and we allow the mums time to open up and to become confident with us as well. And we work together very closely with our family partnership workers, and we totally respect the culture that they bring to our program as well. And as a team, we work together and support the mum. So as I said, I see it as being a privilege.
I think so too. Like, and for me personally, I'm amazed by every story that I hear, and I think I'm very relational. Like, I'm very interested in every story. I love listening to the stories and then working together to find, like, it's a collaborative approach. It's not me saying, oh, this is what you can do about stuff. It's not about me. It's about them. And so we're very yarn-based, like, not just coming in with a piece of paper and go, oh, this is what you need to do. We have a conversation, really, and in the conversation they can bring up what they're interested in, and, you know, we talk it through and, you know, support them to feel confident that they can do this. But just to also say again about the cultural side of things, I think it's exciting to see how well the FPWs are linking everyone into culture, and how those community activities are such a key thing. You see the mums come together, having yarns together, and building community and building cultural connection can really strengthen their confidence as mums as well, not being on their own. And I think that's a real strength of the program, bringing mums together through cultural.
I was lucky enough to be at a 2-year graduation a couple of months ago, and to see mums just burst out into tears and to be completely emotional in front of a room full of people. But, you know, you touched on, Cardi, about the culture, and that's kind of the vehicle that drives these women to build new relationships during a really tough time that seems like, you know, you can feel very alone at home with that pregnancy. So what is that like for you as well, Annie Kim, to see these mothers not only build relationships with you and the staff members, but with each other?
Oh, I think it's quite hard because we pick the mums up when they're about 16 weeks up to 26, but we carry them all the way to the baby's 2 years old. And so that's a really long journey that we see our mums, and to say, you know, we're going and we're parting ways. I think it's emotional for us too, because we've built a really close connection and bond. And, you know, we also, with our role, we also set the right nurse up for the right client to make sure there's a connection. We give our mums the opportunity to, you know, if they don't connect, we'll have a change. But we hadn't had to do that, because when we go for visits, you could just see the nurses' faces when they interact with the babies, and mum is thinking, you got it right. You know, but when you got that journey to say, see you later, you know, you might just run into them when you see babies 4 or 5, and, you know, that growth, you know, you run past being Indigenous and you're always connected to your community and all that. But I think the sad part is, you know, saying goodbye, you've completed that journey, and it's been amazing. So
Can be a bittersweet moment, right?
It definitely is.
But I think the beauty of these programs is that there's so much wraparound services that you're just completely building them up. So when that time comes, they're right, you know. And can you guys, like, tell me a bit about, like, you know, maybe mum needs a license, or, you know, looking for a place to stay, or may need a bit more education around a healthy diet. What are the other services that are associated with ANFPP?
Oh, we did a lot of housing, just filling out general forms, births, registrations. We do a lot of child safety sort of pickups, and that's very heavy and a very heavy load through our organisation.
In that space, total advocates for our mums in that space.
We do a wide range of things, and also setting mums up into daycares and programs when they leave us, so they've got another network that they can go to, so which is really good. So Lisa's done some wonderful work with a lot of her mums in a lot of daycares, where we get some companies where they'll come and pick mum up. She hasn't got a car, and we'll continue that services. We do so much. I think there's even the art and getting connected to art, and belly cast and foot and hand cast and all that sort of stuff. I'd love to do a big exhibition one day with one of our mums. So
there's some beautiful castings.
Beautiful,
I can't paint to save myself, but some of the mums, they have like the most amazing castings, and the story that they tell on the bellies. Oh, it's incredible.
And it's so deadly, because we also bring the nurses, and sometimes when we do a belly cast, we always talk to the mum, and it's great because they get the idea of how it's formed, and, you know, and they're the experts in that clinical sense. But, you know, when we come and doing that whole connection thing, I think it's you got to just be that wider community and let everybody in, you know, because we've got to be a team and build that team. Absolutely. And that confidence. Yeah, definitely. But it's really rewarding, and we just advocate so much for our mums.
Now we'll jump into a bit more about immunisation. So, ladies, what does immunisation look like within ANFPP, and tell me a bit more about it and why it's so important for our bubs to be immunised?
Well, immunisations are really important to protect your children from diseases that we do have immunisations for. Like if you think before immunisation, that children were often dying of diseases that we can now prevent them to die of, like for example, measles or whooping cough is a really big one, or polio, for example, was a really bad one as well. So the opportunity is there these days to stop that from happening, to protect your child from getting a really bad disease that, you know, those diseases that we can prevent. We should use it for...
Yeah, the other important thing about immunisation, though, is to realise that we're part of a community, and by being immunised, we call it herd immunity. So if we're all immunised, things like smallpox was a big one. Now, smallpox around the world back in the early 1900s was a big killer. So people now haven't even heard of it. And why? Because vaccination has actually eradicated that disease. So if we all get vaccinated, then we're not only protecting ourselves, we're protecting the community. So it is important that we do follow the vaccination schedule. And it goes from when bubbies are first born right through into adulthood. So, and yeah, it is important that they continue.
I think, you know, back in the day, we all had our tribes and our nations, and on the back of herd immunity, that's that collective obligation where you're not just thinking about yourself. You're thinking about all the vulnerable people in your community that may not be able to combat these diseases as much as you would, and like our bubs and our elders, and that collective obligation we have to look after our community. So how does one within the program step into immunisation? What's the schedule look like? Where can they get it from?
So bubbies are when they're first born. They have their first vaccination. Of course, the midwife will talk to you about that and get your consent, because vaccinations are all done with consent. So Bubby gets first vaccination at birth. That's the hepatitis B. And then the schedule is actually in the red book. So we've marked the page back here, and you can go to the red book, and the immunisation schedule is.
So it's got tabs, and the big blue tab is immunisations, and then after that, it gives you the schedule. One is the schedule, so you know exactly what's happening when. And then when you are doing the immunisations, they will put a batch number there, and they put the date and the clinic, so that it all can be followed up and followed through.
So so vaccinations bubbies are 2 months, 4 months, 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, and then 4 years. And it seems like a lot, and it is overwhelming for mum and dad, of course. It's scary. You've got this beautiful new little bubba, and you have to take your bubba into the clinic, and they get 3 vaccinations at 2 months. But it's
a lot of mums actually really wait for that first vaccination because, in the first couple of weeks, your baby's got no protection when you're going out. Like shopping centres, such a big place where so many people meet, and Bubby could be exposed to all these things and get sick. So a lot of mums are like, I just want my baby to have that first immunisation. The first one can actually be done after 6 weeks or 2 months. So from 6 weeks onwards, it can be done.
And the big one with that one is the whooping cough. And particularly now we're coming into winter, but at any time of the year, whooping cough is a big one. And it's funny because I always say to the mums, we buy a puppy and, you don't take your puppy out until your puppy's had all the vaccinations, and don't let them be with other dogs or socialise with other dogs. But it seems to be that with babies, it's a bit different. So, and of course you can't sit at home for 6 weeks, but I always say to mums, look, pick your times, don't go to a shopping centre on a Saturday morning when it's going to be super busy or anything like that. Sort of just try and pick your times. But that first 6-week vaccination is an important one.
And try and limit people touching your baby in those first 6 weeks before they've had their first vaccination. The 2 months, 4 months and 6 months vaccinations are follow-up vaccinations. So once they've had their first shot, they already have developed some immunity, and the other ones follow on to boost it and to boost it again. So it's not all different vaccinations, but it just builds on each other. So after that first vaccination, they are less vulnerable if you take them out.
And you've just brought up another point too about, when you said not letting a lot of people touch your baby. Quite often, definitely, during the pregnancy, we always give mum the whooping cough vaccination, because some of that immunity she builds will go through the placenta and give Bubby a little bit of protection in that first 6 weeks. But we also do the herd immunity, where we say to the parents, everyone that's going to be around that bubby in the first 6 weeks, make sure that they've been vaccinated for whooping cough. So once again, and that's the herd immunity coming in. We want to try and protect Bubby that way.
I absolutely. I know my mum had a kid when I was 12, and then 11 months later, another little sister. So we were all so excited. And, I remember mums in in our family, it was you had everyone. You had everyone in the labor room. You know, it was aunties, sisters, daughters. Yeah. Everyone was there. You can't stop them. They get a bit excited. But as of recent years now, that there's a bit more mums taking control of who they allow access to their bub and who touches bub. And I know that conversation can get a bit awkward sometimes, but I think seeing mums empowered is like, no, you're not allowed near my baby unless you've had that whooping cough vaccination, and you're not allowed, my baby's too important. They're too vulnerable at those early days in their life. What does that conversation look like where you have with mums about taking that power into their own hands and setting the boundaries in those early days?
I'll be honest with you, I haven't had to have that conversation. All my mums have been so strength-based, and they're the ones that have said, no, we're not letting anyone, if they're not having the vaccination, that's their choice, but they're not going to come anywhere near my baby for the first 6 weeks. And it's like, you go, girl,
But that's really good because we can empower that. So they will hear about the vaccination, not just from us. They'll hear it from their midwives. Often in BIOC, we work closely together with them, or their GPs, and we just back it up and we just say, yeah, you go, girl. That's great. You've done your research and we totally support you when you're saying no, because it's your choice.
I think that's deadly, because when you've got the nurses that's giving you that information, it gives the girls an understanding, like, it is dangerous for everybody to come in and all your mob to come and touch and feel the baby, but it gives them a bit of an eye opener and a bit of control to say, hey, no, if you want to touch the baby, you need to go and get your shots done. And they follow up on that too, to make sure if auntie hasn't had it or uncle hasn't had it. So yeah, it's pretty deadly.
Now, you talked about working with BIOC, and I'm sure, you're connected with your local Aboriginal Torres Strait Island Medical Service. How important is it to have those connections with your local services, and, where do they go to get these vaccinations?
Ideally, I think for our mums, it is best if they connect with an Indigenous service, because there's some extra vaccinations that Indigenous bubbies can have. And it's not rocket science, other GPs should know it too, but sometimes they're just not as experienced. That it's not that they don't want to support them, but something might be overlooked. And so it's easiest to go somewhere that's really catering to your mob, basically, and that knows exactly what's going on.
And connecting with an Indigenous health service early is very important, because then you've started that journey, and they get to know Bubby right from birth, right through the child's life, so definitely very important.
And it's not really at the end of the day just the vaccinations. If they go to the Indigenous health services, babies can have the 715 health checks, and that's so deadly because it's so much more comprehensive than I've ever seen it in any normal GP clinic. They do walk you through so much more stuff, and they often pick up on things early that could be a problem maybe. They do hearing checks regularly on babies. Like, they pick up on a lot of stuff, and there's so much resource available that is only really available in those services. So
definitely. Yeah. A lot of allied health, physio and occupational therapies and speech therapies and, pediatricians, and the wait list, if you need those services, is much less if you've gone to an Indigenous health service.
Yeah.
So
I just think that's so amazing. Immunisations can be a bit confusing at times, and you mentioned before how you just guide them. You walk beside them, you hold their hand in those moments. So if a mum is a bit concerned about their vaccinations or what it means, is that where you step in and you just even attend the appointment with them, or help them fill out understand the Red Book a bit more? Is that your role?
Definitely, absolutely. I've actually just in the past couple of weeks attended 2 AMSs with health with clients and been there with them, and just to advocate and support them. But I can't even remember what I was going to say. Sorry. With vaccinations, we also, with our background, give a little bit of an explanation. So when we know that they're coming up for their 6-week vaccinations or their vaccinations at 4 months or 6 months or whenever, we can talk them through what vaccinations will be offered at this appointment, the possible side effects, and we do expect some side effects because when we're giving a vaccination, we're not giving a bubby the disease.
Yes.
It's something that the body actually thinks is, and so the body is actually building up that immunity. They're building up cells that will stay in the memory bank so that if that bubby ever comes into contact with that particular disease again, then those memory cells will come out and fight it. That's what gives us our immunity. So we do expect a few side effects when you have a vaccination, and that goes for all of us, whether it be the flu needle. So a bit of low-grade temperatures, you can have a bit of soreness at the site, bubbies can become a little bit more irritable, and there's other side effects with some of the other ones. But we can explain that to the mums so that they understand that this is actually okay and completely normal, and how to deal with it, how to manage it.
It's actually a good sign because it means it's working. You want the body to recognize the disease, that eventually the bad disease might come their way, and the body will go, oh, that's that disease. I remember that from the vaccination, and straight away goes into fight mode, where before, if you don't give that little bit of information to the body to protect yourself against the disease, the body might just, not recognize the disease early enough to really send the response. So that's what it's all about. So you're getting a little bit of a micro response in the beginning so that you can fight much, much quicker. You recognize, oh, that's the bad guy, and you recognize the bad guy when it really does come along. So a little bit of fever for 2 days is often, all that they get. A little bit of maybe just irritability. Yeah.
And I guess that's the beauty of having you both there to explain that, because for me, that's myth busting. I always thought that they gave you a little, you always hear that, I guess, on a rumor or whatever, that they give you a little bit of the disease so you can fight it, but that's myth busting in itself. And to have someone there to explain that to you, it can definitely go over your head very quickly, right?
The reason that, and of course you can't have vaccinations when you're not well. And the reason you can't have vaccinations when you're not well is because your body's already busy fighting another disease, fighting another infection. So you don't want to then go loading up with a vaccination, which is why then bubbies, if you've got a bubby that's a little bit sick, that the doctors will not vaccinate. They will wait. With Centrelink, they will cut. It's no jab, no pay, but I think you've got about a 2-month leeway there, and they'll send you a letter if you haven't vaccinated and they're concerned. But yeah.
And if a mum is really determined not to have bub vaccinated, how do you guys handle that and that information distribution and just making sure mum knows everything and can move forward with the right
informed choice? So you inform and you give all the information to mum, because obviously I'm pro-vaccination with my background, but I also respect choice. Everyone has a choice. But you need to be fully informed. So you just make sure. And then if after, and also ask mum to go and have a chat with the GP. I think that would be the best person to speak with about it as well, because the GPs, at the end of the day, go, yep, no, we call them objective, conscientious objectors. And if you do decide, no, I am definitely anti-vax, then the doctor can write a letter. And you can have a letter written, but you've also got to understand that, of course, your baby, with this herd immunity where we're vaccinating to protect the community, there are going to be some situations that your baby possibly may be excluded from. Certain daycare centres, childcare centres, schools will not accept enrolment. So,
and I think the no jab, no pay is definitely, like, you then have to accept that that's one of the consequences. I think the importance with people, like, there's so much vax stuff going on in the community. It's really confusing sometimes for mums, and they might read on forums, and the importance that stuff that we can do is just explore with mums who are worried what their concerns are, what have they heard, and then it's that myth busting. It's that explaining and saying, look, this is what it does, and that's what it is for. Or, they didn't want to vaccinate my baby when it was sick, so that must mean it's really dangerous. explaining it like Lisa did. No, it's just because we want to help your baby to develop that immunity against whatever they're fighting right now. And then we give them a fresh chance with the vaccination next time. So sometimes it's just about listening to the mother. What's actually going on? What is she afraid of? And maybe we can diffuse the situation and, they can make their choice.
Yeah, that's and I think the more we talk about COVID, the more we talk about that idea of choice. And I know as a First Nations person that didn't always have the choice, and in our historical context. So the fact that we have choices now is it's a beautiful thing in itself, and rightfully so. But with COVID going on now, that's a big issue and big thing we're talking about. And I don't know about the research for COVID and women who are pregnant or women who have just had bub. Can you guys give me a bit more information around the vaccination for COVID and what the discussion is around women who are pregnant and women who've just had bub?
I think there isn't a lot of research around that yet. COVID is a relatively new thing, and I think we're in a very good situation in Australia that we can kind of witness what's going on everywhere else. And a lot of other countries are far further into the vaccination programs, and we can draw on their research around, they have to make the choice, is it safe, is it not safe? And they will make it based on what's more dangerous for the potential recipient of the vaccine. Do they have a lot of COVID in that country? They will be more likely to give it to the pregnant mums. I don't think that will happen so quickly in Australia because we don't have a lot of COVID. And with vaccination, you always outweigh, if you don't know, if you haven't got the evidence to show that it's definitely safe, you will outweigh, are they likely to get COVID or not? And so I don't think it'll be rolled out easily for pregnant mums, but, certainly we're now rolling it out for the community in general. And I think that's a really good thing. I think we're in this great bubble of safety in Australia with not a lot of COVID, but I'm German and I come from Germany and we've had 80,000 people die from COVID. So it is a very real risk. And it could still come over here, it could still affect us, and it could still kill a lot of people. So I think it is important that we start the vaccination process, get it rolling in a safe manner. They will draw on research from other countries where they will have seen what responses they got to different vaccines. So I think we can be quite safely assured that we're quite protected by all that data from around the world. But we need to make sure we build up a herd immunity, because at the moment we're in our bubble, but do we want to stay in our bubble forever, or do we want to eventually travel again? We've just seen all the pictures about New Zealand, and New Zealanders so happy to see their families again. Well, other people like me, I want to see my family too. So let's vaccinate and protect. And I think for the community that we work with, it is so important to know that it's such a more vulnerable community, because often the Indigenous community has a lot more comorbidities, and you want to see your aunties, you want to see people that potentially also have other underlying disease, and we want to protect everybody. So it's not just some people that should do it, it's everybody to protect the most vulnerable in the community.
Absolutely. And I think one of the biggest things I took out from last year is just taking it day by day, especially when information is changing so regularly, and it can become so overwhelming, just like pregnancy. Taking it day by day is a very important way to handle ourselves. But if we do have questions, if we do have concerns, where's the best place to go to answer those?
Your GP. And you can go to the Queensland government websites, health websites. They're also good. But I think your GP is the best person to go to, because they're the ones that are kept most up to date with information, as you say, that at this point in time changes from day to day. So definitely.
They get a lot of updates. And yes, it is confusing. Some people have heard about the different, don't give it to that age group, but now we give it to this age group. That can be worrisome, but I think we've seen really great response from government about that, because they're worried potentially that there might be some risk. They will change their advice around it. So we can actually rest assured that the government's looking at all of that stuff. And once again, they're outweighing risks and benefits. And I think the response has been remarkable around all of that. So talk to your GP be guided by the updates, and whether you need to be vaccinated sooner or later sometimes depends on where you work. Like, I imagine all of us will be vaccinated fairly shortly. I think you've already had your vaccination.
I did.
Because we work with vulnerable people, so we want to make sure we aren't potentially people that carry the disease to someone else. And that's, for example, with vaccination in general, that's one of those things. I might not look sick, but I might carry the disease. And that doesn't just go for COVID, it goes for the flu, goes for lots of different things. I'm strong, healthy, and I might think I'm okay, and I walk into a situation and I could infect someone else. So it is my responsibility to make sure that I'm most likely not to bring disease to someone else. And that goes for everyone that works with lots of people or has a lot of contacts.
That's deadly. And I think
it's not easy getting the COVID vaccination, can I say? And that goes on to the next thing, because there are, at a lot of GPs, there are waits. So if and I strongly encourage the community to get vaccinated, to go to your local AMS, your Aboriginal Medical Service, and talk about where to get it done in your area, because there's a lot of different places in each area around Brisbane. So I know in Logan there's a respiratory clinic, out at Booville there's a respiratory clinic, Annerley there's a respiratory clinic, but I'm not so sure on the north side where you can actually walk in and pretty well much get it done within the same day. So,
but otherwise, there's also the option. Some GPs have the option of signing up for a date. Like, this is, in 2 weeks' time is your vaccination date. That could also be a really good thing to do. That way, you get the ball rolling, and also share if you've done it, to encourage others to do the same and go, yeah, I've had my jab and it wasn't that bad.
Wasn't that bad.
And I think the best part about it is when you go to your local community-controlled health service is that they already know your history. Local GP, who sometimes you may potentially go to a lot, they already know what health challenges or where your health is at currently. And as you guys said, that everyone reacts differently to everyone's different. Everyone has different reactions. So it's important to go to the people who know you best. But before I let you all go, I want to just get your favorite part about what it means to be a part of this program, and your favorite part of working with your community and your team. Cardi, I'll let you go first.
For me, I've worked in community a lot, but a lot with, before I started with ANFPP, I worked with the children when they were much older, and there was already a lot of things that might have not gone quite to plan. And I love about this program that we connect with mums so early, and we travel the journey with them, and we can support them right from the beginning to build them up, so that no one has to pick up their child with delays. In the end, they're not delayed. We just see, it's so positive. We just see growth and such a great journey for the mothers, and it's such a joy to see the success stories that come out of this program, and how mums are empowered and how babies are thriving and just bubbly and beautiful.
Well, that's that preventative health, right? It's what we all encourage all the time, is to pick it up before it's there. Lisa, your favorite part about ANFPP?
So I've been a midwife for over 30 years, a long time. And I used to think that as a midwife, it was the greatest privilege and joy to be in labour ward and to be there for the birth of this beautiful new baby. And of course, that is an absolute privilege and joy. But I now see my position that I work with alongside the Aboriginal health workers and our beautiful team. I see the joy and the privilege of actually being welcomed into homes, and to see these beautiful bubbies who we meet, they're in the belly when we meet them, and mum, and to actually walk alongside and to be with that family for 2 years, and as you say, preventative healthcare, and just to help empower mum and give her the strength and the knowledge to know that she's actually doing a really great job. And it's just beautiful. I love forming
deadly.
those relationships, and it's an absolutely beautiful program.
I absolutely love visiting the events and seeing that feeling. You can't really describe the feeling, but Annie Kim, I'm sure you'll try and give it a go, because I know you're such a big part of the community, and the girls love all the energy that you bring. So what is your favorite part about the program?
See, I had many jobs over the years, but my passion was to work in an Indigenous organisation. And when this job come up, I was just absolutely in love with, I'm very, what could you say, very driven with it, very compassionate, and just love what I do. So being able to interact with women in our community and bring them in, and I've done a fine arts honours degree and be able to do a lot of art projects with the mums and coming out and still doing with nurses and all that. And I just think working for my community is just the best part, I love about it. So I love going out and seeing our mums and just making sure everything's culturally, in the guidelines and everything like that. And the nurses, guiding nurses and all that, which they're all beautiful. So you don't really need that because they love what they do and that. And I just think working as a team and working for the community, that's it, Very passionate about my job, very driven, I suppose, yeah.
And, I'm sure you 100% know what it's important, but can you tell everyone why it is important to have mob looking after mob? Because there's just no one who gets you as much, I feel.
Yeah, I suppose mob looking after mob, it's just like you're there, you support, you know how they are, you know the ways you got to talk and yarn. And I know when you got your nurses and your clinical speaking, that when you're mob, you got your own way. And I think I might be the craziest auntie on board, and I might be not doing the right, but they all get it, you know what I mean? So I think having that connection and how you got to talk and how you communicate with your kids and all that sort of stuff, with your young mums, I should say, it's just beautiful because they know that talk. They know that talk. And
Absolutely, you're on the same wavelength, aren't you? With that,
definitely.
But thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you, lovely ladies, for coming on board and having a very important conversation, and making sure all of our mothers get that love and that support they need during a very important time in their lives and their family and Bubs' lives, and moving forward. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you.